All right, happy weekend, peoples. Bruce here with Targeted Wealth Creation. All right, let's jump into BITO. This is the last of the 4 dailies, and sorry getting these to you a little late on GDXY and YBIT. But I wanted to do a good job. I wanted to make sure I had everything together and updated chart. So here we go. All right, so over the last couple of days, what's YBIT done? Well, we had a lot of trades on Friday, right? Because they rolled out of some stuff. So this is 3 consecutive the same, but let's just recap. So we were at 26.97 on Wednesday. We dropped down to 26.64 and then down to 26.16. So it was a continual, well, not continual exactly. Yeah, it was from that period, right? It's been fluctuating in the 26s. So let's take a quick look and we'll come back and we'll compare YBIT, but I wanted you to see here. So we're still operating in this big bull flag, right? So moves down here. This is BITO, right? The underlying. So kind of flat for this period of time. What's this? A 1-year chart, I think? Yeah. So we're looking, this is flat. So Bitcoin wakes up, moves up a lot, right? So we go from 12 to, 23, almost double. Pulls back a little bit and then runs up a lot. So the length of this consolidation makes sense, right? In chart terminology, technical analysis, this would be a bull flag, right? You got parallel lines. You go up, you go halfway, you got a midpoint, you come down and you just about touch the bottom, go back up and touch the top. Now we're kind of trending sideways. So we can either go back to the midpoint. I don't think it comes all the way back down here because that would be like 52 on BTC. So not likely. And so this thing can, play around till it breaks out. A breakout is a clear move here above this trending line, and you want at least a day close. Then you want it to start moving up. And sometimes they'll move up and you'll see something like 30, 32, and then it'll come back halfway down, right? Sometimes it'll come all the way back down just to test that support line fairly quickly and then take off. So you have all kinds and sometimes the breakout is big, there's some news or some driven event and you get a breakaway gap, right? You run here, closes, jumps up to 32, runs to 35. So there's all kinds of charts and different breakouts that happen and techniques and styles, right? And then of course if it came down here and broke below 20, that's a pretty, and stayed, that's really bearish. That says our near-term bullish is not going to happen, right? So I just wanted to clear that up because people ask me, views on stuff, and because YBIT is really tied to BITO, and BITO is a direct derivative of, the futures market of BTC, they tie together very closely. I mean, YBIT is a new fund and it's playing the options on BITO, but BITO in 2021 was one of the first ETFs, right? And because it was a futures, it really wasn't considered this new wave of Bitcoin ETFs that go out and invest in BITO. So when you hear that BlackRock and Fidelity and people did it, those are a different class. But this is a CME, when futures, which is when Bitcoin got approved, but there was still a lot of doubt on whether Bitcoin was going to get approved in the general equity ETF world. And so now there's a lot of those out there and they're doing very, very well. That's part of something that I'm going to do. I'm going to analyze a lot of that in a video and just tell you what I think going forward and what are some targets and heights. And sometimes I mention some of that, but I want to just make a video on that. Why am I bullish and what's it look like? All right. So let's leave this guy alone. And let's go back and finish our introduction. All right, so we've been dropping. I mean, clearly, I was all excited about YBIT and a big payout. We didn't get as big a payout, but I mean, honestly, at 81% annualized, that's a really good return. But sometimes I don't like the signs, and let me get into that when we look at the weeklies and the holdings and just what I perceive. So this is almost 19. It's not like we're outside a range on this, right? It's still fairly new. And let's take a look. How many? Yeah, we had our payout, so it's 5-6 weeks. All right, so going across, what did they do? Let me show you the intraday trades, right? They're a fairly big number. So one thing that they led with was they went out and they show you adding to the synthetic, right? So they bought 325, or sorry, they closed out these in order to then put on some different. So in this case, they bought, no, they did put these on. All right. It's just that the 2 cents made me think that it was a buy to close, but I just remembered how far in the money they are. So let me go and show you. Far out of the money they are, excuse me. So let's take a look at that and you'll see. The reason they're doing 2 cents and 8 cents, and this is the danger thing about them, and one of the reasons why I think YIELDMAX didn't pay more when they could have, because of this quote liability, right? So they went out to a 36 strike. Well, BITO has only been to around 33, so it's very likely, and the whole 5 or 6 weeks, it's been trading mostly in the 26s. Let's go back and look at that, and I'll show you. So on my May tab, we've got back to May, and then there's even an April tab. So let's look at some of the numbers for BITO. So BITO's height through all this stuff back when they started was 29. Well, they went out and chose a 36. So I don't know if that's like giving somebody a softball, you just lob it up to the plate so they can smack it instead of throw it hard and confuse them, right? They don't see the flight of the ball. So and what I mean by that, you give a very high strike, so when you write these calls, you collect money. But you build up this big liability when you actually have to sell it, which in our case is 621. But remember, they put that on back at 423 at the fund inception. So we kept collecting this piggy bank money, but we kept having this liability out there. But it's on the books. The piggy bank money is what they had able to pay, but they know that liability is there, and they know it's not going away unless BITO just really takes off, which means Bitcoin, and it could, right? But I other than that, and remember, when you got a new fund and you've got 8 other big guys out there, the BlackRocks and Fidelities, you want to get something in your fund, right? So even paying $1.37 will attract some people. Now, BITO paid, what did I say, $1.69? But there's many months that it was paying 20 cents, 17 cents, 30 cents, right? I've only been in it about 4 months. And when I first looked at it, I didn't even know it paid a dividend. Then I saw that it did. And I said, oh, well, heck, I'm going to buy this. That's a plus, because it's one way I can map to Bitcoin, because I'm really not a crypto guy going out on the exchange and using the wallet and taking custody. But I hated Grayscale. I knew their fees were too much. So I'm primarily a bull on BTC, on Bitcoin. I love their security. I love their limited availability, 21 million, all of the things about it that makes it unique. It's digital money, it's digital energy, it's an irrefutable ledger. There's just so many positives that the world will not be able to ignore it. It just has too many technological advantages. It would take somebody if the government wants to make an equivalent, probably $1 trillion to build what it is today, to build that security network. Go listen to Michael Saylor on some of his interviews. Again, the guy's a rocket scientist, MIT graduate, just a student of history. I mean, he's probably read every history book there is and studied the coinage. If you want to know how people lived and what they did and what empires were like, study the coins of the time, right? What did they use to barter, to trade? It's just fascinating, and I've studied a fair amount myself, but not to the degree that Michael Saylor has. So anyhow, just a brilliant guy, and he'll say to you it takes 100 hours of studying to really understand what BTC and Bitcoin is. And when you do, you probably come to the same conclusion. I don't know how you couldn't. I didn't have that much interest in it for a long time because I was very successful with gold, that 2000 decade. And I finally just studied and said, this thing's not going away. There's something about it. And there's why I came to the conclusion. Okay, so this hasn't, 29, 28. So with that bull flag, let's go back, right, on our weekly. And, we want to go up. So what this is doing, though, ever since, we were trading, remember our fund's only been going, right, since the 23rd. So we're all in this range of BITO and not up here, 33-ish. It may have touched 34, but that was probably a high for the day if it got there. I know it was well up. I remember 33.79. So anyway, and we got the same thing here. There's no real volume. You like to break out on volume. You don't have to. I'll take a breakout without volume, but it's usually volume that creates the breakout. So let's continue. So here we are, moving along. They made all of their money. Look at this. So on all their 6 7s, 43 cents they sold them for, 36 cents, 29 cents, right? This big one. 43, whoops, that's this week. So all of these, look at 2 cents, 2 cents, 1 cent, 1 cent, 3 cents, right? So they collected nice money. So what did they do this week, right? So I want to jump to 6 7 now. So they come along in 6 7. Let's also take a look at the shares. So 25,000 on 6 6 more, and another 25,000. We hit the million share mark. Okay, nice. So they've written 213, 215, right? And then they collected 99.9%. Well, I take it back, 210, and then these are around 260,000 on 6.5, all with 6/14 expiration. Now look at our strikes, 28, 27.5. All of these are 27.5. There are 3 items because they sold them at different prices. What am I going to do? Throw it all together and then try to average out the money, and because they may buy them back in different amounts. It's just kind of a pain in the ass, but it's what you have to do when you want to account for all this stuff. Okay, so let's take a look on both on the holdings and weeklies. I show you all this. I think you guys are getting familiar. So let's take a look on our weekly up here, right? You've seen the chart, updated that. These are our prices. Everything was down. Volatility's up. Yeah, I mean, Thursday was a big up day. Friday was a big down day. So the sweet thing is we've got money in the bank. We're well out right now. We got full 5 days in fairness, but this is reasonably secure at 9%. I mean, on the other hand, if we just ran up to 35, we'd get killed here. But honestly, the synthetics would just roar. I mean, we got a lot of synthetics. So it's the yin and yang. You make it where you lose it. So we're winning already on these weeklies with the big down day on Friday. Sure, one of them, the bulk was sold again on Friday. But we had sold a lot before that. And then the market went down after they sold. Right? So of the 279,000 that we've written or collected the money for, we could buy them back for 168. So we've almost earned 40%, right? So let's look at holdings. That'll show you. And then, sorry, cash, you don't care. This is becoming a problem. And the reason I say it, normally I don't worry. If I talk about Coney or Misty and they're out at 719 and it's, 6'8", 6'7", 6'9", sounds like a basketball team, doesn't it? June, I should say. So, it will be June 10th on Monday, right? So the 6'8" is getting to be a big number relative to all their other stuff. And the fact that that synthetic is due the 21st of June. So that, I think, had more to do with not paying out the amount of money because they were given a softball to collect the money, if that makes sense to you guys. So, but I never know which direction they're going to lean and just pay it, But $1.37 is good. I was expecting twice that almost, but the idea, that's still going to make people happy. People are still going to go into a fund that pays that. There's going to be probably average and do much, I shouldn't say much, it's going to pay out more than BITO pays out. BITO has fabulous options, though. Was it Chuck or I forget, I apologize for not remembering the name right now, but one of my subscribers wrote a comment, Chuck Davis, I think, and he was saying, hey, on my BITO that I own, I sell puts out. He didn't tell me how many weeks out, but he told me 3 strikes out of the money, and then he takes that premium that he gets, but he has cash in there if they come back in the money where he has to be put the stock. He's willing to be put. So if you're really bullish, a sell put strategy, take the premium, buy that, or buy something else you're bullish on. So I'll talk more and more about that. I tried to do early on my channel, just teach you options 101, and selling puts to make money if you're bullish on a stock, how to buy a stock cheaper, sell puts. But anyway, I appreciate that feedback. It shows me people are knowledgeable. And look, I'm trying to educate to all levels. Obviously, the people that really understand this stuff enjoy where we are. There's people that our eyes are glazed over and tell me, can you just give me a summary? Well, just skip forward in the video, right? I got to make what I got to make. So this is our current situation recap, but I wanted you guys to understand. Now, in this case, we've been in this 36 the entire time, right? So we were just 4 days ago a 5 million deficit, a 6 million, moved up some on Thursday, and then turned around and went down a lot more than we went up. So we got a 6.8. So this is sweet, right? We're winning on this one. Now let me show you what that looks like as an overall. And then, well, actually, this is holdings you saw weekly. Yeah, let's take a look at it. So these are the first 2 months. We're done, right, with May. So this is only June totals. So we're fine on the synthetics because we're riding them where we're collecting good money, right? Even though we have that liability. The problem is you're sitting here looking and you're saying, okay, well, we got 1.6 million of income, right, that could pay out. So that's $1.63 on a million shares. But you got a 6 million liability out there. 6.2, 6.8. Let me see it again. 6.8. So I see why they're nervous about that, right? So the proof's in the pudding. Now, they'll roll that and we'll take a synthetic loss, The fund's still going to pay, We'll get $1, we'll get $2, we'll get an amount of money. But you want it to get out. I don't know if it was done purposeful, to be honest, or not. Like I said, could have been a softball to hand them something. But this thing hasn't moved in any massive amount. We're between, 24, high 24s to 28 on BITO. And I noticed the same thing on the shares I own, right? I've written some calls before, but lately I haven't even bothered to write calls. I don't own very much of BITO. But I was, I still get a decent dividend. I like the YIELDMAX strategy, and I feel like YIELDMAX with YBIT, once they get a share of the market, I mean, BITO has been around a long time, and just trust this: if the liquidity and the volume and the options weren't massive, then YIELDMAX wouldn't have been able to use that as a tool to mimic BDC. They just simply, the volume and the strikes and the open interest and all that wouldn't have matched their criteria, but in fact it does. All right, so I think that's it. I think that's what we got for you on BITO. So that should bring you up to speed. I got a lot more videos, as I mentioned, planned. So we'll see what, there's Snowflake coming out, the software company, that comes out on the 11th. Somebody mentioned it in the comments, but I had seen that. I should have actually said something. I'll go back and look at the chart. I understand their tech. I know some people that work there that I used to work there. And I'm not super thrilled. I think it's definitely a player and a popular stock, but it doesn't do all that much for me. I'll just have to dig a little deeper. I have to see how their options are and what kind of premiums in the IV. I don't really know that stuff right now, in case you guys want to know. All right, that's what I got. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Happy weekend, everybody. Have a good one. See you next time.